Don't you ever speak to me like that again.
My God.
Everyone, please, let's give them some space.
The room went silent. The echo of a slap still hung in the air, sharp and unreal. Guests froze, glasses half raised, eyes darting toward the proud black woman standing tall, her cheek burning but her spirit unshaken. Across from her, the young wife smirked. Sure no one would dare speak against her. After all, her husband was miles away, wasn't he? But then, the front door opened. A deep voice cut through the tension. "Mom? Claire? What's going on here?" This wasn't just a birthday gone wrong. It was the night a family's truth was exposed. Welcome, story lovers. From where are you watching? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. The chandeliers sparkled like frozen rain above the grand dining hall, their golden light dancing across laughter, wine, and the sound of celebration. It was a night meant for joy, her night. For 70-year-old Mrs. Evelyn Carter, the proud matriarch of the Carter family, this birthday was more than another candle on the cake. It was proof of everything she had built, through struggle, through sacrifice, through a lifetime of fighting to be seen and respected in a world that once denied her both. Evelyn had raised her son Marcus on her own, a single mother who worked double shifts as a nurse, saving every penny to give him the life she never had. When he married Claire, a woman from a wealthy, old-money white family, Evelyn had swallowed her doubts and smiled. All she wanted was her son's happiness, even if that meant being the quiet observer in a house that sometimes made her feel like a guest instead of family. She remained there. Tonight, the mansion overflowed with guests, friends from Claire's side, business associates, and a handful of people who barely knew Evelyn. Still, it came for the prestige of being invited. Laughter filled the air, but it wasn't the kind that reached Evelyn's heart. She stood near the table, her smile gentle but tired, as whispers floated around her. "She's aged well, hasn't she?" one woman murmured. "You'd never guess her son married up." Evelyn pretended not to hear. Years of subtle jabs and polite cruelty had taught her how to wear grace like armor. Marcus wasn't there. He was overseas on business. Claire had insisted on hosting the party for tradition's sake, assuring Evelyn she'd handle everything. And she had, in her own way, Evelyn didn't know that beneath the music and champagne, something darker was building. A tension that would turn celebration into humiliation. By the end of the night, the laughter would stop, and a single sound would echo louder than all, the slap that changed everything. As the evening carried on, the party shimmered with perfection, or at least that was how it appeared. Claire moved gracefully through the crowd, her designer gown glinting beneath the chandeliers, her smile flawless, practiced. To the guests, she was the picture of elegance, the perfect hostess, the adored wife of an accomplished man. But to Evelyn, who had learned to read people like open books, that smile carried something sharp underneath. Evelyn sat at the edge of the long table, her posture poised, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She noticed how the guests' conversations shifted whenever she approached. Compliments dipped into condescension. "Oh, Mrs. Carter, you must be so proud of Marcus," they'd say, as if reminding her that her worth existed only through her son's success. Claire had invited a live jazz band, saying she wanted to honor Evelyn's roots. The words stung more than they soothed. The band, all black musicians dressed neatly in white shirts, played softly in the corner, an unspoken reminder that even here, among so-called respectability, Evelyn's culture was decoration, not celebration. Then came the moment Claire stood, champagne flute in hand. "To make a toast to my wonderful mother-in-law," she began, voice sweet but dripping with performance. "A woman who taught me so much about perseverance." The room chuckled. After all, it takes real strength to go from the hospital ward to the penthouse dining hall, doesn't it? Laughter rippled around the table. Evelyn's smile didn't falter, but her fingers tightened slightly on her napkin. Claire continued, each sentence a polished blade wrapped in silk. "We're so grateful to have you with us, Evelyn. Truly. Even though Marcus couldn't be here, I know he's thinking of you tonight. He always says his mother is one of a kind, And I couldn't agree more. Evelyn nodded, offering a small clap as the guests raised their glasses. But inside, she felt something hollow open up. When the cake arrived, a towering, white-frosted masterpiece, Claire retook center stage. "Make a wish, Mother Carter," she said, deliberately using a name Evelyn disliked. After all, 70 years is quite an achievement. Cameras flashed. Evelyn closed her eyes and leaned toward the candles. But before she could blow them out, Claire leaned closer, whispering just loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Careful, dear. Don't let the wax ruin that wig." A hush fell over the table. Evelyn froze. The guests looked down at their plates, pretending not to hear. The air grew thick. Claire smiled sweetly, lifting her glass again as if nothing had happened. But Evelyn's composure was cracking. She excused herself quietly, moving toward the hallway, away from the stairs. She paused by a mirror, staring at her reflection, still elegant, still proud. The years of holding herself together, of swallowing disrespect for her son's peace, pressed heavily on her chest. Then she heard Claire's voice again, this time from behind her. "Don't take it so personally, Evelyn. You know I'm just joking. Everyone knows you're sensitive about these things." Evelyn turned slowly, her voice calm but firm. "Respect isn't a joke, Claire. And you don't get to decide what I'm sensitive about." Claire laughed lightly, stepping closer. "Oh, please. You act like a queen in a house that isn't even yours. Maybe it's time someone reminded you of your place." And then it happened. A flash of movement. A sharp, sudden sound. Claire's hand connected with Evelyn's cheek. The room beyond the doorway fell silent. The laughter, the music, the clinking glasses, everything stopped. Evelyn stood motionless, her head turned slightly from the impact, the sting burning into her skin. No tears came, just a quiet, devastating stillness. Guests in the nearby room pretended not to see, frozen in disbelief. Claire's smirk returned, confident, unbothered, because in her mind, no one would ever tell Marcus, but fate had other plans, because at that exact moment, the front door opened, and her husband's voice echoed through the hall. "Mom? Claire? I'm home." The sound of Marcus's voice sliced through the stunned silence like lightning in a storm. Claire froze, the color draining from her face. Evelyn slowly turned her head toward the entrance, her cheeks still red but her eyes fierce, unbroken. Marcus stood in the doorway, suitcase still in hand, confusion clouding his expression. The guests shifted uneasily, glancing at one another, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. Claire's perfect smile wavered, and for the first time all evening her voice trembled. "Marcus, you're early!" I didn't know you'd—" He didn't answer. His eyes had already fallen on his mother. The mark on her face, the trembling glass in her hand, the weight of a room too quiet. Evelyn didn't speak. She didn't have to. The truth was written in the air. Marcus set down his bag and walked toward them, every step heavy with disbelief and anger. Claire reached out, her tone desperate now. "It's not what it looks like." But Marcus stopped her with a look so cold it silenced her mid-sentence. "You hit my mother," he said softly, almost whispering. In her own home, no one moved. The guests looked down, ashamed. Marcus turned to Evelyn, his voice breaking. "Mom, I'm so sorry." "I should have been here." She reached out, steady as ever. "You're here now," she said. And for the first time that night, it wasn't the mansion's walls that held power. It was the truth finally breaking free. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments. The party ended in a blur of whispers and quick exits. Guests slipped away, avoiding eye contact, pretending they hadn't just witnessed something unforgettable. The chandeliers still sparkled, but the warmth had drained from the mansion. What remained was silence and truth. Marcus escorted his mother to a chair, his jaw tight, his hand trembling as he poured her water. Claire stood frozen near the doorway, tears welling, not from guilt but from the fear of losing control. Her perfect world had cracked in a single moment. Evelyn, though shaken, sat tall. Years of quiet endurance had forged her into steel. She didn't need revenge. The truth had already spoken louder than any retaliation ever could. When Marcus turned to his wife, his voice was calm but final. "Respect is the foundation of this family. You broke that tonight." Claire tried to explain, twisting her words into an apology, but he didn't listen. The damage was done. Days later, the mansion felt different. The air was clearer, lighter. Evelyn's photo, once tucked in a hallway corner, now hung proudly in the living room. It wasn't just decoration. It was an acknowledgement. Evelyn never spoke of the incident again, but her silence carried power. She had faced humiliation, yet she left behind a lesson no one could ignore. You can't silence dignity, and you can't buy respect. Because some moments don't just expose truth, they redefine it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more powerful stories, and never forget, silence in the face of injustice is also a choice.